2025 Rockford, Illinois, 70.3. This one is kicking off June 22nd. Sold out race here, and yeah, this one's going to be a good one. There is a couple unique things here. First off, this is a river swim, rolling bike, and a flat run. Some of these images here will definitely give you some insights there. You also have to go over some bridges. High air temperature average is around the 90-degree area. Low temperature in the mornings around 72, so you're going to get somewhere in between there. And the average water temperature is around that 80-degree mark there. Qualifying slots, 70.3 slots out here that are up for grabs are these 45 slots, and you also have 25 women for try slots there, so you get a couple of bonus slots out here. Our swim course. Swim course is a downriver swim. What that means is you're going to have an assisted current out here. T1 is located right here, which means you are going to have to get bussed up to the swim start on race morning. I don't know what the specifics are. I don't know how early or when that officially starts. Athlete Guide's going to come out here the next week or so, so keep an eye out on that, I would assume, once they finalize the bike course, which we'll talk about in a second. But once that does happen, you're out onto the bike. Couple of things that you will notice on the swim before we talk about the bike is you do have a little channel you're going to swim over here, and then you kick out over there before you go down. That's the big thing on the swim. Again, tail assisted current, which means you're not going to be able to escape from people right away. If you do, you're going to have to watch out. It either means you're going super, super fast, or you are surrounded by weaker swimmers. So happy days for you. A lot of athletes really overdo the swims that are tail current, just like here in Chattanooga. So be very, 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 very careful with that. A lot of athletes just keep chasing the carrot. They see, okay, I'm going fast. Let's go just a little bit faster, just a little bit faster. And what ends up happening is it's a downward spiral of effort, and then they're out on the bike and they're gassed right from the beginning, which is not what you want to be. You want to come out of this swim. You want to come out fresh for the bike. Now our bike here. Bike has changed. Original was going up and down in the straight way, but they've moved it over slightly over here. But either way, when we do get out of our transition area, we are heading out up here, heading up this side, and then we are going to go around in a counterclockwise fashion before we do return back home right there. Couple of unique things out here that we are going to zoom in for here. This is our transition area. We do exit out here. We do take a left, and then we do this little dog leg pattern right here. The reason I bring that up is because it's going to drop your speed slightly out here. It's going to be a little annoying. Watch out for other people and passing right there. That's going to be one of the danger spots out there initially to keep an eye on. Now all of this stuff is okay until we get to the town of Rockton out here. Your speed's going to probably be higher over here. You do have a 90-degree right-hand bend, so anytime your speed is higher, watch out for that. Then you're going to take 2 left-hand turns right into an uphill, so your speed's going to be lower there. Also, you're going to be experiencing some headwind, some crosswind at this section, which we'll identify in a minute. But just wanted to bring those 2 places up. Also, when we do scroll around out here, another area that I did want to bring up is this little S-curve right here. It's not tight. It's not super, super technical out here, but anytime you have a straightaway and then turns do come into play, a lot of times athletes get squirrely. They don't really know what's happening. So if you are approaching this area around other athletes, just make sure you know what's going on. Lastly, this little left-hand bend right here. This is going to be not a challenge. It's just going to be a little bit different from what you've experienced for the vast majority of this bike. So again, watch out for other athletes out over here. Make sure we're all being safe. We want to arrive back home in one piece. That is our bike course technicality. Now, when we do talk about elevation, well, before I guess we could do that, let's talk about how to attack the bike. So this is our power plant. I'm going to get rid of speed for a second here. And as we roll over, I'll refresh this here. So I want you to watch the rider on the bottom right here. This is talking about our wind, our weather. So for frame of reference, the weather is going to be doing this on race day, watching those blue lines out here. It is going to be around the 14, 15 mile an hour mark, at least predicted. And then when you get closer to the finish, it's going to pop up to that 15 miles an hour that we have predicted right now. So as we roll over, watch the rider over there, and it will tell you kind of what you're going to experience in this scenario. If it's a little different, your tactics are going to change slightly, but in this scenario, this is what's going to happen. So as we get out of the transition area, we're going to have a crosswind to our left, or from our left. What that's going to mean is a lot of athletes are going to get broken up out of their groups a lot easier. And again, this isn't a huge amount of distance. So if you can be on your P's and Q's right out of the gate, that would be ideal. Think back to our swim, getting out fresh, not getting out with the best swim time in the world, which hopefully you do have. But you want to get out of that swim ready to work on the bike because it's going to come very, very quickly, and some of the essential key areas are happening right away. When we do make this right-hand turn, the wind shifts a little bit. You're going to have a cross tailwind, one of the best winds to have on race day. Since it's a straightaway and the wind is going to remain the same, that largely remains true all the way up to this point. At about here, you're at about 14 miles. Speed is going to be high. It should be high here. It's a little bit unique, a little bit different than most 73s here. Aero is still going to be a main priority, and I'll tell you why in a second. As we make this right-hand turn, you are going to still have a tailwind out here. It's going to be a little bit less. It's going to be from the right side now, right? But you're still going to have that tailwind, so speed is still going to be high. Now think back to one of those points that I did talk about earlier with the turns out here. This is going to be the point at which your speed plummets and starts to drop for the remainder of the day. As we rotate around in Rockton out there, the wind comes from our left-hand side again. We're going to have a crosswind. It's going to be coming from the probably a headwind. It's going to be my guess out here. But as we rotate up here, one of the more challenging parts, of course, you're going to experience a cross headwind almost the entire time you're out here. Making another left-hand turn, you're going directly into the wind now. And, if you're looking at the future here, you're going to have more headwinds out here. So during this section here, aero is going to be really, really important. Also, not overdoing it in the first half, which, again, I'm getting ahead of myself. As we rotate around here, this is going to be a section where you are going to experience a slight tailwind out here, and that's going to be very welcome because that's probably going to be one of the last times you do experience it on the race course. All the way back in, you're going to have a headwind pretty much the entire time. Rolling back into town, it rotates a little bit, but you're still going to have that crosswind coming back in, maybe a slight tailwind depending on what happens with the wind, but I would expect a headwind pretty much from this point onwards in our race. That's at mile 41 over 57 miles out here. So let's go to, let's back up a second here. Hopefully you could see here that this race course is divided into specific intervals, and if I can highlight them correctly, we're going to rotate out here. If you are also looking at the green line, you'll also see that those are elevation bands out here. So this course is very, very, it's very transferable to indoor riding, in my opinion, out here. Looking at the time analysis. On this course, if you were to improve your drag a little bit, you'd have pretty good responses out here, about 30 seconds for a small advantage out here over your drag. Power, if you are going to increase power slightly, again, you're going to have a 42 second weight, or 42 savings, second savings out there. Weight gain, not a whole lot out here. If you're already around race weight, you might want to think about improving other things, other areas, unless you want to keep dropping. Rolling resistance, you're going to have a benefit pretty much across the board aside from a couple small areas out here. In my mind, you want to increase your drag out here. You also want to increase your power for sure if you're right around anywhere where you need to be in your race position already. If we are going to talk about the zones out here, zones in this course, you're going to have zone 3 primarily the entire time. I know we have about 2,000 feet of elevation gain, but that's pretty much what you're going to experience out here. If you watch any other videos, you'll notice that the flat videos have a lot less time in Z1, maybe less time in Zone 2, and it's a lot of Zone 3 time, slightly Z4 time. The Z4 time is here because we have some of the hills, so let's talk about them. Now, the hills are on everyone's mind out here. Again, about 2,000 feet of elevation gain. Let's call it 1,900 just to be safe. Their site's going to say a little bit different. But as we scroll over a lot of these hills out here, you'll notice the max gradient on here is 3.8%. That's coming in our tailwind section. But backing up a little bit more here in this, let's call it a mile and a half, I believe, if I could get my mouse working. Yeah, 1.3 miles. There is going to be a hill that you are going to have to work up for sure. No question, 100%. You're going to have that cross headwind down here. But if you look at the cursor out here, it's very manageable, especially early on. We are going to experience some 2.5% grades, but that's only going to last for a little bit. And then it's going to soften up a little bit and be around that 1.5% area. So this hill, don't let it get at you. You're going to be rushed with adrenaline anyways. You're going to be ready to go. You're going to be fired up during this section. It's the first 2 miles. Be very careful out here. Don't overdo this hill. You will be able to do the majority of this hill in the arrow position if everything is as it seems right now. Then we are going to experience, when we do make this right-hand turn, that tailwind. So when we are talking about it during this section right here, there is a fair amount of elevation that we are going to eat up here, but in the whole grand scheme of this 8.5 mile section, we have 400 feet of elevation gain. That max gradient is going to come into play here, but we are going to have a 15-mile-an-hour tailwind. So the hills are going to get you. A lot of athletes are going to fall into the trap of overdoing it during this section. Same thing during the swim. Speed, I got to have more speed. I have to have lots of speed. I'd be watching your cadence. I'd be watching your heart rate from the bike. Is it settling down or is it jumping all over the place? And just watching out for those high heart rate spikes out here. Power production, we know if we switch back to our powers, let's go back to our power plan. During this section here, it's going to be one of the highest, not consistent, but intermittently it's going to get up there. What you need to find is a rhythm out during this section, this first half right here. Let's just highlight it so everyone knows. What you're going to need to do is find a rhythm out here on race day. Even during some of these bigger hills out here, I'm going to put that in quotation, bigger hill sections out here, establishing that rhythm. During this section here, that should be just pretty standard. It should be straightforward. If we roll over on this athlete's power, 160, 176, 152, 165. So it's jumping around a little bit, but nothing really crazy. The crazier parts that we are going to talk about is 194 during this section. That's the really, really aggressive incline. That is 3.8%. After we get past this section, again, we are still in a tailwind during this portion. So for this, let's back up all the way to about right there. We have 16-ish miles, maybe a little bit less, of tailwind. That is a really good thing. It's going to be a really bad thing. The times in this section are going to be really good for the majority of people if weather conditions are at least normal out here. So once athletes get to the town of Rockford up there, everything's going to start to slow down, and athletes are going to naturally want to fight up against that slowdown. It happens all the time when you race online. It's just natural, right? And what you want to watch out for is the kind of that ego, preventing you from slowing down. Don't be afraid to slow down. If you have a power meter, watch those power numbers and don't ignore them. A lot of athletes just don't even look at, they look at one thing with a lot of success, whether that's speed, power, heart rate, whatever. A lot of athletes should be looking at power, and if they find that they're averaging 70, 80 watts more during this section, it's probably not realistic for them, especially if they overdid it during that first little stretch here. Be careful, watch out. Once you get to Rockton up here, I'm going to highlight during this section all the way to this one. Up here. 12.5 miles, 363 feet of elevation, about 2.5 feet percent of grade. So again, that's the max, and most athletes can get up that no problem out here. If I scroll over here, a lot of this is in the 1.5% or less, right? This is the 1.5% as we continue over. A little bit more, but then it calms down here. A lot of athletes will be able to be in the arrow position, should be in the arrow position. So you're going to have a ton of time to get it from that tailwind, a ton of time to get it when you're doing the crosswinds or headwind sections out here. Again, similar to those first couple of miles that we talked about. If you're in a group, this is likely going to be the first major place where you have the ability to break the group or shake the group up. during this section. A lot of athletes are going to be looking at these hills right here to break things up. Those are the obvious places to do that. Less obvious places are some of these downhill sections over here, mixing in some of the uphills. That's another easy place to do it, but you'll be surprised at how much damage you can do if you really want to at a flatter section, and especially the downhill section here. So just because you're with a group doesn't mean that you're locked in during this stretch up here. Now, as we continue onwards, this is going to be a big key to our course out here. I know I didn't highlight the whole hill, but that's for good reason. This is all going to be a headwind if the weather conditions are the same. Average gradient, 0.06 here, but when we climb this, it's going to come in two pieces. This little wavy hill right here, a little false flat, and then we go peak up to 2.2%, and then it rolls back down. Again, headwind out here, so this is going to be a really critical section right through here. Aero is going to be a big priority. Maintaining that speed, maintaining the cadence, all really essential pieces to success on race day down through here. Afterwards, again, it is a rolling uphill, again, 1.5%. Before we hit a little downhill, you can build some speed up. This would be a surge spot right here if it was myself. And maintaining up through this glorious 1.5% before it kicks up to 2.26-ish percentage. And again, we have a little bit of a downhill again before it kicks up again to 2.3. Now 2.5, 2.6%. Again, for some athletes, it's not going to sound crazy, but when you combine that with the 15-mile-an-hour direct headwind, it's going to feel a lot more than 2.5%. So be mindful of that on race day. So when you're going out, be mindful of the wind, seeing what's going on. You're always tracking something out there, whether that's nutrition, pace, heart rate, and also the external things like wind and weather. What's going on? Is it shooting me in one direction? I will tell you, from experience, just because the wind is coming from one way, I would expect it to swirl a bit, just the nature of the wind. And then after we hit this section, what I would focus on during this section here, again, this section is going to be a building section. It's going to also come at a downhill, right, which would be great. But once you hit here, you're probably going to start to get pushed really aggressively from the wind, hopefully. I'm hoping for you guys. So that would be another area to kind of recover, maintain some of that speed out here. And I would break this section back into two sections. The first one right here, about 10 miles out here, let's call it 365 feet of elevation gain, 2.76 max. 2.7% max grade. Average gradient, you got about 0.3%. So you're going to be rolling uphill for a good distance. So this is one of the keys to the course, obviously. Because you are steadily going uphill from, let's redo this, from 44 over here, 3 miles, 4 miles long, 200 feet of elevation gain. Again, almost entirely headwind except for a small section right through here. And again, that's going to be flat, so this has the potential to be fast. This is going to be another area where you are going to be able to break the group up if you want to, and if the wind is going the right ways. This is a crosswind section here before we hit the hills again. Hills in quotations, of course, on this course. And again, elevation is always going to be coming at you. The wind is always going to be coming at you. So for the first part, we'll summarize it really fast. Watch out. Go fast, but do it in control. Once Rockton hits, that's where the real work is going to start out here. And it's pretty much just going to be from here on out. From this 20-mile marker all the way to the 57-mile marker, you're going to be working pretty much the entire time, unfortunately. You're probably going to have a small break from mile 37 all the way to 41 and a half. But then once you get here again, this is another section where it's all work from here on out to the finish line. Be very, very careful when you're looking at your power. Hopefully you can see here that the power just steadily climbs, and then it does drop slightly towards when you get to the finish. That's entirely due to the elevation factor on this course. It does kick up a little bit right here, but that's what you got. So be careful out there on race day. A lot of athletes are going to forget to fuel. A lot of athletes are going to go at a really low cadence. If you're planning on muscling through this one, make sure you're training and doing that now. If you're trying to drive this through your cardiovascular system, make sure you are training that now with a higher cadence. All of that should be common knowledge to you up until this point here. If you get out there on race day and you're changing what you trained on for race day, you are going to set yourself up for failure. That's not any insight. That's pretty much common knowledge at this point. So back to our courses. Our run. Also the bike might get changed slightly, but that's pretty much what you're going to experience out there on race day. The run course has changed, a little bit different than the one that's up here on the road map, on the run map, the road map. Either way, it's still a two-loop course out here. We're going to start off away from that transition. This is going to be our furthest point. We're going to cross over. We're going to experience all kinds of things out here. And what I mean by that is when you do exit the transition, this is going to be probably one of the more quieter portions of the course, especially when you get over to the bridge out through here. During this section, it is going to feel great. It's going to be awesome. Again, we're only 0.3 into the run. And then you're going to have city running. City running is going to carry you up until, probably 2 miles. Right? Again, we're only 2 miles in. We have a little change of scenery. Oh, I will tell you that there is a hill that you do need to watch out for, and we can just transition things here, make it a little easier for everyone. So this is what you're going to experience when you do hit the city running at 0.7 into our run course here. This is going to be one of the major hills that you do have on course. It's about 3.5%. Doesn't last for a long time, but it is there in the first mile, which will place a lot of stress on a lot of athletes. So be careful out here when you are running. Make sure you're running within your means. And if you're not, this first hill should be a alarm bell should be going off and say, hey, do you think you can realistically run at this speed, at this power, at this pace? If not, you need to slow it down, respect it. Once you get past over here, the city running continues out here, which means you're going to have some shade, not really. You're going to have a mix of wind. It's going to be coming in between buildings. It's probably going to be swirling in places. And as you run up over here, you're going to run over the bridge. That's the word I'm looking for. Again, bridge, open to the elements, open to the wind. If the wind is coming down the water out here on race day or coming up the water on race day, you're probably going to have a crosswind coming from your left shoulder. It is probably going to be one of the windier portions of course. So if you are, if you're a little cooler at this point, or you're kind of over fueling or under fueling or whatever, you're probably going to experience some warning signs right there on the bridge. If you're feeling great on the bridge, I would also take a look and say, hey, do I need anything? Should I be, getting some more electrolytes in? All that good stuff. Should be a huge check-in spot right here. Once you hit this portion, it's going to be neighborhoody. It's going to be industrial right through here. It's going to be fun. You're going to hit the bridge again. Everything that I just said goes double for this bridge. You're also going to have, this is not a typo out here, you're going to have, this is probably one of the more challenging portions of the course here, and it's so tight, I can't even do it on my thing. So you're going to run down here. You're going to take a right-hand turn, and then you're going to go up to the turnaround over here, turn around, and you're going to go right back out here onto the bike path. It is this is going to be very familiar for a lot of athletes. This is the recreation path. Let's call it a bike path out here. If we switch to the satellite view out here, you'll see that it's mixed in with trees, so you're going to have intermittent shade. It's going to be very, very common for what a lot of athletes are used to doing out here. Then once you get out over here, what isn't going to be common is you're going to run under the bridge to start, and then you're going to run around it, right? And you're going to have to zigzag your way, or excuse me, this is the other way, but what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to run up this hill, and that is the hill that, sorry, my draw thing is out of whack here. This is the hill that everyone is not paying attention to that is going to sting a little bit. It's going to bite a little bit. So watch out for that, and you are going to take a right-hand turn after that. And where you are going to return to city running out here. City running, and again, all the wind, all the elements, you're going to be open out there. This is going to be the section where there's going to be a decent amount of people out here. You're going to cross the bridge again, and you're going to start loop 2 by taking a left, head into the transition area again. As you run loop 2, everything really remains the same again. It is it's pretty much what it is for the first and second loop. Not a whole lot changes out here. What I will say is your point of attack might change. So as when you first came out of that transition area, this hill was a hey, watch out for it, don't worry about it, and just get up it. The second time you get through it here, this hill might be a jumping off point. It might be a springboard for you. And that's going to end at mile 7.6. So as you continue on and you zigzag up over the hill, Um, this is probably going to be the point at which a lot of athletes start to put their stamp on the course out here. This is going to be like the further side of the course, the part where a lot of athletes aren't going to have a lot of cheer sections out here. So I would recommend going out there if you are a volunteer. Might be nice to be one of the only ones out there on course to cheer on your people. And as you rotate up here, this is going to be just a continuance of that, but I would expect a lot of people to use the bridge as a jumping point for a let's finish this off, let's get it going. Comes at mile 9, a little bit before that. So, again, have fun out there, guys. It's going to be great. Watch out for the heat, it will get you. Watch out for the wind, watch out for the elements. If it's raining, if the wind's coming at a different angle, that is going to change how the race tactics happen on race day. But have a blast, everyone. Hope everyone has a great time. That's 2025 70.3 Illinois.